Hey, Melissa, what's going on? Thanks for taking out the time today to chat with us.
Sure, Peter. Thanks for asking me. Happy to be here.
So before we get into it, I mean, I know you just mentioned 36 years in real estate. So can you kind of go through, how you've built up your career to where you're at today?
Sure. So I actually was a school teacher. So I taught school for 2 years and hated it. So I thought, well, I'm going to get my license, and so made more money from May to December. Now, this is forever ago, mind you, as well, but made more money, selling real estate. So I really did a lot of new construction and open houses then because I didn't have a huge database and all those kinds of things. So that's kind of what I did every weekend. So I just kind of had an open house strategy, for that. And that was in Murfreesboro at the time in 87, then moved here in 90 in Memphis. And so I've been here ever since. So then I just went, as I continued to grow and build my database in '05, I hired my first assistant and then just went on from '07, growing a team, which wasn't well known, or most people don't know what a team was basically then, especially like in Memphis area, I should say. So just kind of evolving that over where we are now to now, team lead, kind of stepping out of production more and have 9 agents that are on my team right now.
Oh, nice. So, yeah, I mean, you did it earlier in the day of teams, and now there's a lot more teams out there. People have really pushed that down versus, doing a solo agent. So, how was that transition?
It's really hard. It's hard to kind of figure out what works. And sometimes honestly, it's so hard. You're like, what am I doing? Sometimes you feel like it's easier just to be a solo agent with all the dynamics and things changing. But then it's really a neat process when you figure out how it works, which now there's more tools to help you to kind of figure out what that works and different things. So it's like we just love the camaraderie and being together, and everybody, it's kind of like being at a doctor's office. Everybody has their specific piece of what they do really well, so that keeps everybody, kind of together too. So
Yeah, I mean, I think that like you said, camaraderie. Also, you hear other stories and there's other people to train with. So you really build that up as well to be more cohesive and run as a smoother engine.
yeah, we had so one of my agents on Friday had was negotiating a contract, and he was just like, I just don't know what people do that don't have teams because my main admin's been with me since '07, and my other one's like 2 years, but I had one that passed away, and that's why she's just 2 years. But so we've been together for a lot of time and been through a lot, so they know they get a lot of support and get a lot of great answers and whenever they call, basically, to help them kind of walk through that process too. So they feel very supported with everything that they're doing too, which is fun.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the support, the training, and the guidance is what I see a lot of people are yearning for now. Because, as a solo agent, you're basically the business owner running the business, and there's no you're kind of just grabbing at straws to try to figure out what's going to work best for you. Your market's going to be different than mine. I'm in Orange
Right.
County, California. So like I've tried certain things that really win in your market or, a
Hmm.
Midwest market or, a Florida market, and they haven't been successful for me. So what were some things in the early years that were working for you? You said open houses, but what were some things, a 3 or 4 pronged approach that you were kind of doing to really get those buyers and or seller leads? And then what does it transition to now?
Yeah, so I did, open houses. Back then, it's really you just put a sign in the yard. But now we start on Mondays, and I honestly am excited. Open houses are back because you get, you missed for 18 months not be able to get additional business from signs, just from the signs calls and different things like that, and the ability to have open houses. We haven't been in Memphis because they were selling so fast. I know you were too, but it's kind of different.
Yeah.
Um, so we start on Mondays, and we're even going out to the neighborhoods again where the houses are and just knocking on doors and leaving information. So the open house is like Sunday from 2 to 4. We're inviting the neighbors to come from 1 to 2. And I know a lot of people are like, just nosy neighbors. We've heard that saying. But you know what? I was like, it's been so long since we really had open houses and that anybody probably has done them well that they're looking at it, oh my goodness, this team is really being proactive and going after the neighbors because when you list a house, there's usually two other people in that area that are thinking about, selling as well.
Yeah.
So so it's just kind of subtle approach, but they've just been impressed that you're being proactive and handing them the information, whether you meet them or not in person, when you drop it off, but then they're invited to this personal open house, that you have before the public comes to. So it feels like feels like a special invitation. So, but we've just, really gleaned in some buyers and sellers, potentials to put them in our database and our workflows, for future business.
Yeah, I mean, open houses have been huge. I think, for certain agents, like, certain areas, it's been, a huge thing production wise because they do it from like a Thursday afternoon, evening, all the way till Sunday, and they have their whole team working it, and that's been, I've seen a lot of different agents be able to run very massive and successful teams just off open houses. And I mean, they are coming back because ultimately, like you said, the last 2-3 years, you would have a property sit on the market for two, 3 days, and then you would have 10, 15
Mm-hmm.
offers. And now it's, I mean, at least my market properties are sitting for 60 days where it was 16 to 18 days over the past 2 years, 3 years.
Yeah, our days on market have gone up. We're still seeing we're a totally different price point where
Yeah.
you are. So it's like our 350, 3 to 350 if the house looks right. We're still seeing multiple offers, not to the extreme of what it was, but 4 or 5. But then on the other hand, if they're not show ready, and then I mean how it is to get people's mindset right back to today's market and not. I won't even go back 6 months for comps just because that's old data. It's like that's just not, because if you go 45 days prior to that when it actually sold, that's how far
Yeah.
back it is, and that's just not, just trying to get the accurate data now for what a house needs to sell for. So sellers are adjusting, is my point to that. So you're seeing them sit a little bit longer because they're still struggling with 2022 prices, the beginning of it as opposed to the end of 2022 and now. And not that they're bad, we're just adjusting. It's just a little different.
I mean, I guess that's a good segue. So, how was it before, and how do you treat a seller, especially now, because they're reeling off the past few years? Granted, it's been, almost 12 months since we kind of had that, okay, slow and then really fast uptick of the interest rates. So how do you have that conversation, and what type of success have you seen with having success with sellers on saying, okay, we were at this price point, but we really need to be here? um, why don't you tell me a couple of stories on how you've done that?
Yeah, so funny, we had this one house and they were like 300. Our average price point before COVID, actually, we were like 175. That's how our average price point is. And now we're up to, about 300,000, which I know you're thinking, oh my gosh, all day long, with those
Yeah,
prices.
yeah,
But we had one and they were still, and it was just October, but they were still, a little bit still newer of 2022 price point. And so they wanted to list at 320. Well, 2 weeks in, they got frustrated because they hadn't sold it, which is kind of comical, to think 2 weeks were frustrated. So they took it off the market, reevaluated, and came back a month later and started at 300,000, which even just that but a difference made. No, I'm sorry, they came back at 285. They really adjusted to what the price should be, and we had multiple offers and sold it. So it's just controlling the narrative, what that is. And I have builders. We're in the upper price here in Memphis, and we're like 950 price, and we're doing buy downs now. Where the builders weren't doing anything. So we're really, telling the buyers, like I'm doing a buyer workshop virtual tonight at 6 o'clock, just to let them know they're in prime position right now to buy houses. 6%. Of course, I started selling, it was like 17% interest rate,
yeah,
which is crazy. But just seeing it double in a year, like you mentioned, is really hard to swallow. And I knew as soon as it kind of leveled out, it'll be okay. People will settle in and feel all right with it. But for the buyer's perspective right now, they're not competing and paying stupid money over a list price, and you are seeing some concessions from the seller. So buy downs are huge. I'm just getting the lenders involved in those kind of conversations to see what that looks like, because so many people don't even know what that means, to have the seller contribute, for 2 years to help with that payment for 2 years while you kind of settle in.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's like every 6 months, it's a learning curve for buyers and sellers because they're not in it like we are,
True.
every single day. So it's, even when the interest rates now they're ticking up again, the
Right.
past couple of months they were going down to like high fives, to mid fives, depending on if FHA or conventional. So that type of stuff people are really not aware of, and to have that knowledge and conversation is super huge with making sure that that person is well taken care of, one, and then two, will either refer you and or repeat business between them, because they say, okay, well, Melissa's on my side because she told me this and this, and we're able to get it. These days I always tell my clients now, it's like three things. One, you can offer a little bit less. You can ask for closing costs that are going to cover, not just closing costs, but also rate buy down,
Hmm.
like you talked about, 3-2-1, 2-1 buy down, those types of things, or just buy down in general to get a 30-year fix lower.
Right. Right. And then you can always refinance. Typically, I mean, like 95% of the chance of election year, the rates go down too. So it's like
Hmm.
not that I want to hang my hat on that by any stretch of the imagination, but it's nice to be able to let them know there is an option, and so many different ways to get them in now. And like you said, they're just you can sleep on it when you look at a house as opposed to having to make an instant decision. The way it was, that was really kind of awful. I felt sorry for the buyers because you don't make the best decisions when you have to decide so quickly. And now at least you can go home and sleep on it, to make sure
Yeah.
it fit, what you want.
Yeah, I mean, you can sleep on it, you can have that conversation. Sometimes you can come back a week later, which is like
Right.
crazy to even talk about. I mean,
Right.
in my market, I was dealing with some client or working with some clients, and dealing with the scenario where we kept submitting offers. One time we submitted an offer $200,000 over asking, and we got beat out, for someone that spent $250,000 over asking. So that was happening, and we luckily got into a place because it was like the first day on market, and we were able to jump in, before anybody else did, and they accepted our offer, didn't really look at anybody else's, which was huge, and we were only a little bit above asking.
Mhm.
So there's things like that that happen in those markets. But now, I've had a lot of buyers win where they were 3.5, 5% down, and they weren't even getting any looks. And now I'm way more excited when I talk to a buyer. I'm excited when I talk to a seller, but I'm way more than the past 2-3 years, right?
Right.
Because the past 2-3 years, if they come to you in their FHA, you're like, well, I
Yeah.
mean, we can try, and then they get discouraged, and they don't have any fun, and it's sad to say, hey, yeah, you got beat out again.
Right. And VA too. That
Yes.
was even awful. Nobody would even look at a VA. So I felt sorry for them too, but glad it's changing.
Yeah, it's changing for sure. So talk to me if I'm a seller and you come to me, you're like, hey, we should do a couple open houses. What are the things that you're suggesting to me as a seller to do to my home to get it prepped for a weekend on, open house?
Yeah, just like a showing. We spend a lot of time, as I'm sure you do as well, getting it ready before we even come to the market. So this one house that I had, I got them to paint and carpet again. So I'm like, we're back to a beauty contest and a price war again. So it's like it's just important to get it looking right, because now people don't have the money really to do the things that they want to per se. So they need to move right in and not touch a thing. But this one house, she painted, she did the paint, she did the carpet, she did everything that she had. It was really funny. As a seller, she was like, "Oh my goodness, I had no idea how great the house would look just by the paint, new carpet from this, and why did I wait so long to do it?" And the funny thing that she said, it was like, and the cost wasn't near as much as what I thought. So I just kind of flipped that with my sellers. I know you asked a question about specifically open houses, and I'll come back to that, but just getting it ready for the listing, I'm like, I tell that story because I'm like, the buyer is going to double whatever the cost is. So it's like,
Mhm.
in their minds, if it really only costs, $10,000 to do all this, they've priced it out at 20, whether it is or whether it's not, but that's what they're up against. So open house is just having it show ready, be gone, take the pets, take the kids, take everything and just the lights on, all of the normal stuff to get it ready, yard, leaves cut, whatever it needs to be done for the season as well.
Yeah, you make a huge point about what buyers expect on repair costs because I work with some investors and they do, fix and flip. So I see what they're, up against on what the repairs that they're doing to the homes. And then I also I have some rentals myself. So I know what relative costs are. And then if you're
Hmm.
in the industry, you know that too. But like you said, you'll have buyers and they'll say, this house is going to cost us, $100,000 to rehab. And in reality, it's only 50 or 60, maybe 70, depending on what type of stuff they're going to use. So, yeah, that's what I've seen too is, they're doubling it or they're either going way above what, ultimately it's going to be. So that's the conversation too on the other end of like, on the seller side, yeah, do this, this, and this because you're going to make more money because you'll increase the value, right?
Right. And that's what I tell a seller too. It's like my job really is to spend $1 of your money to get you three. So it's like just trying to be, we're not there to try to spend their money, but we're really, everybody has different needs and may need to sell it as is. Totally get that. But to get somebody the most money, I'm trying to spend a little bit to get you a lot is the goal.
Yeah, a little bit to get a lot, and then to be able to, sell it quicker than, what it would if it needs work and it needs to be repaired and stuff like that. Those things I see a lot too is I'll just list it as is and we'll make, the same amount of money. And you really need to make sure that the reality sets in for the sellers, especially in this market, is you should fix it up a little bit or, put some money into it if you can, to put you on a basis of being able to win on selling
Right.
your home.
Right. Right.
So, so yeah, and then for now buyers are winning. You guys are doing more open houses. What's like one thing that with your team as you've grown the team, you've helped other team members on the team win? What's some things that you guys have implemented?
Um, it's just different strategies. We're, back to doing expireds and for sale by owner. So it's really funny. Some agents can complain about leads. They're not good, but digging back into our opportunity ponds, as we call them again, and uncovering these people. So we've got, agents that are doing that, which is really neat. Now, some of them, of course, have been in there a little bit longer. But still, they're still there. So we know now that it takes about 33 times for a touch for a lead that comes in, as opposed to 15 to 18 is what it was. So it's just a little bit longer of time. So just managing those expectations of what it really looks like to kind of convert somebody to set met appointment kind of thing, and having those strategies, and then just implementing different systems for like listings, just kind of streamlining everything too so they're prepared for the way that I love listings and really focused on that for so long and learning and training and all of that because that was seriously my passion with the sellers. You know how you kind of pivot in the business and just
Yep.
passing that on to them so they can be successful with that, with the tools and different things how to communicate with people. So just putting expireds and for sale by owners in place and really honing in on our listing skills too.
Okay. So I want to go back to 33 times. So 33 touches. I think millionaire real estate agent talks about like
Yeah, Gary Keller. Yeah.
yeah.
And that's a database thing. This is just for a lead that comes in for like your CRM, like
Okay.
a Zillow lead or whatever internet lead that comes in. We use KB Core right now, but we were in Boomtown. Of course, they've joined together now. But anyways, those leads that come in that are internet leads, now it's taking 33 touches as opposed to not so many touches before the past 6 months. So that data's in that you need to be, realizing, we're so awful in getting a lead and if they don't respond the first time, we only do 5 touches or maybe not even that many, but just laying out the expectation that it's really so much longer now to be able to turn that into a prospect.
How are you guys? Okay, so I'm a lead. I come in from Zillow. How are you falling? I mean, you don't have to give me, the every single day, but what's kind of the game plan once that comes in? How does that system look?
3 touches in a day.
Okay.
So we want to call, text, and text again, honestly, to get them to respond. It may be from a different number, maybe not, whatever you want to do. You can do the system or do your own personal phone number as well. And so then the next 7 days, we need to have 10 more touches total. And then we go into an action plan, where it's kind of more automated. But at that point, we're really trying hard those first, 10 days to hit them hard. But 3 days, 3 times the first day, and then a total of 10 in 7 days by the time it's over. And then we start, kind of more of the automation and reaching out to them.
Gotcha. Okay. And do you feel like since it went from 18 to 33, is that just because the market slowed down, or was 18 like 10 years ago? Touches.
I think because the market slowed down.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it's just because it's a little bit slower right now. People are apprehensive, and honestly, we're struggling with keeping deals together, not based
Yeah.
on anything that we're doing, but I'm like, oh my goodness. I mean, it's been hard, so it's like, and keeping the morale up, because it's like you've worked so hard with them, and people just seem to be walking for inspection stuff. And I had one last week. It's like they walked away because, in the contract, you've got to do the walkthrough like 2 days prior to closing. Tennessee contract is that way, so many days before, closing, the repairs are supposed to be done. Well, my seller was doing the repairs on that day, 2 days before closing, and had to come back because it rained the very next day. And they're like, no, it wasn't done. We're walking. Now, mind you, there was some other reason, or they've just changed their mind at some point. But really buckling down on our systems to make sure our, guys get the work done way, and so it doesn't happen again. But it's just kind of crazy that over inspection stuff, people are just freaking out about stuff. And so I don't know if they're just worried about money. Can't figure that piece out yet, but it just seems like it's harder to keep a deal together right now, no matter what you do on your end to make it work. But buyers just seem to be a little apprehensive about stuff. But, the world's kind of crazy right now on some things. So you kind of get it too.
Yeah, we just had our sales meeting this morning, and we have the same thing. Is it's not just you guys. We have the same issue is trying to keep things together to be able to make them work and keep them together. I had buyers that on Friday were just about to walk away from a transaction, and then Sunday they hit me up and they said, "Yeah, we're gonna stick with it." And we've had a couple of cancellations of escrows the past few weeks just because buyers either lost a job or something
Right.
else. They just see something that they are like, yeah, I got spooked on it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it's these, when I say that I'm excited for buyers to get back into it, it's either one or the other, right? It's either, you got to talk to the buyers a lot about submitting more offers, more and more offers, especially in hot markets, or the other is you got to really coax them along to make sure that they go through the whole process streamlined, and also make sure you give them confidence throughout the whole process too.
Right, right. I think that's more important now than ever. Like you said, it's really hand holding now, which is fine, but it's like it just seems to be harder in some instances to get them to the closing table and let them know it's okay. And we do this all the time. It's all right, but it's hard.
Yeah, no, it's for sure hard, and I think really, I think that's what makes a really great agent is to be able to really battle the escrow and ultimately get through that, because a lot of people, there's a lot of conversations for a long time about how the real estate agent isn't really worth the person's weight in gold, but ultimately they are, because they have to walk through, negotiate things, go through the gauntlet, if you will, on the transaction to get that person to the finish line, and then continue to drum up more business,
Right, right, right.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, it's like you're herding cats, doing the transaction part, because people don't realize how many people touch a transaction sometimes, so it's like you've got so many levels to it. It's like you can't, we're doing the best that we can, but anyways, it just seems kind of harder for them to understand that at some point. For us, there's like, oh, why did this happen, or why did you let that happen, or why didn't they get finished, or why can't I get my loan, just all those things. So it's a lot of stuff right now. And, NAR stats are 30% of the agents are going to get out of the business this year, just because, if they got in 2020, we were just kind of order takers. I hate to say it, but you were,
Hmm.
and then it was hard because the buyers couldn't get them and they lost them. And that's frustrating after, showing thousands of homes and you're running in as soon as something hits. So that was difficult, but, they don't really know how to work almost, or how to drum up business, because everybody was doing it. So everybody was buying a house. So it wasn't really an issue. Now it's really kind of back to the basics, and that's what we're really working on scripts, which is funny. It's like we're really drilling down to script practicing again, and having those conversations to make sure we're really honing our skills at this time too.
Yeah, honing the skills, being able to, be up against the wall, with every buyer and seller to really, get past those objections that they have, are, these are the times. I mean, talk to me, I guess talk to me a little bit about, you've been in the business for quite a long time, so you have so much experience that really honestly I think is very valuable for people listening. So talk to me about now versus back in 2008, 9, 10, 11, 12. So you've been in the business longer than that. So tell me how you were able to survive then, and then how you have implemented those things into what you're doing now.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, you just didn't see it coming, to be honest with you. It's like you're on top of the world, and then it really just like the lights went off, party's over. But the funny thing, my very first one, so I had a builder, and thank heavens I was probably 50-50 new construction and existing homes. I'm so thankful now that I didn't do just new construction, because I could have done even more.
Mm-hmm.
And I love new construction, but market hit, that business totally went away. But my first deal for a short sale, I had the listing with the builder, and that buyer was selling their house as a short sale and buying this new construction house that was more money. I didn't even know what short sale meant. I was like, I don't even know what that is. Then you find out what it is, and you're like, what in the world,
Yeah.
Well, I actually was short sale certified. Then at that point, I thought, you know what? I've got to figure out how to survive in this. I went through divorce, which was awful. So it's like you've
Oh
got that
gosh.
financially, and the market changes, and so I did short sales, and that's honestly how I survived. So just, knowing what that looks like. And now, there's been some talk. I don't foresee it being anything like that, obviously, with the short sale world at all. But now I know enough to know about short sales and how they work if somebody has that conversation, if you have just a handful now. So just again, implementing, going back, I got really good about going back to my past clients and really touching base with them, probably better than I ever had. And then I started implementing client events, appreciation parties. So we do, for a year, and you really just kind of realize at the beginning, I kind of got caught up on who's going to be there and who's not, meaning I invited this many people, 100 people, and only 50 came. But what you realize in the process, it's all the touches you get to make in the process, whether they come or whether they don't. So, of
Mm-hmm.
course, you want to see them, and that's great. But that's just I'm not a salesy, I'm not a pushy, salesperson at all. So that gave me the opportunity to reach out and reconnect. And I just stay really connected with them. Facebook is great, not to go down that rabbit hole, but I like clock 30 minutes in the mornings just to kind of see, so I can see what people are doing in their lives. So
Mm-hmm.
if their child's lost their first tooth, I go to the bank, have a bunch of $2 bills, and send them a $2 bill.
Oh,
No
that's cool.
$2 bill. It's like no big deal, but it's like, oh my gosh, and so it's just sending little handwritten notes is my main goal with Facebook, just to, because you don't get a handwritten note for whatever's
Mm-hmm.
going on in somebody's life, and then just making a note of it. So people remember you for that. It's like I just wanted to be their friend. I mean, I don't want to just sell the house. I want to be here. This is my job. This is my mission. This is what I want to do, but I want to stay involved in their lives in a good way with their kids, and just reach out, because I am concerned about them, and want to help them in any way too. So those are kind of things I put in place after 07, 08 too.
Yeah, I mean that's cool. I've never heard that. I've heard like recently I've read some more marketing books to really still continue to sharpen the axe, and they were talking about doing half birthday cards too.
That's
Uh,
cute.
yeah, so like
That's a great idea.
yeah, I've heard that too. Just, a second touch.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so things to think about, really, to add into, your business, because it is a business and it is a relationship business. Not every business is, right. There's always some type of relationship and what trust there and everything else. I mean, the transaction is one of the biggest financial transactions someone's going to, commit to in their life. So
Right.
being able to, really go past that barrier and really meet those people farther than any other real estate agent is going to meet them are the cornerstones of being a really good agent and running a good team, because people really allow you in and for you to do a lot of things throughout the whole transaction, so which is huge.
And,
um,
and we started, well, I call them orphan buyers because the national statistics, National Association of Realtors is like, it's a high percentage. 80% of the people like their agent and would do business with them, but guess what? They never hear from them again.
yep.
So I'm like, I'm capitalizing on that. And it's not somebody I know that's been doing in the business for a long time. My admin, will ask me, do we put them on our like orphan buyer plan? But if it's somebody, I don't know that they'll follow up, not being mean, but it's like I gather them into our wings, and market to them as well because they've heard our name just because we're on the other side of the transaction, and I just want them to become ours. So they're
Yeah,
like, oh my goodness. So we've gotten a lot of business, with our orphan, buyer program too.
that's a good point too, is there's a lot of people we do transactions with that are, we're on the other side, right? And then you hear the stories of like, yeah, I never heard from my agent, or you hear that from, there's a guy that used to do a podcast south of me in San Diego, and he talked about like, he's a real estate guy. He's not an agent, but he invests in real estate, and he talked about how he bought his place and he never heard from his agent again. So, and that's low hanging fruit. I mean,
Right.
you already got paid from that person. Now you need to follow up and check in with that person to see how everything's going. Put them on a, even if it's a drip system through your CRM,
Mm-hmm.
do that. And then like 1 year a birthday card. I mean, that's more than 80% of the market,
Right.
really, right?
That's right.
So, and I think that's how people get, that 30% that's going to bump out of the market. That's what's going to happen is, the people not following up, the people not touching base, see how everything was going and everything else. And some people, a lot of people become self-sufficient when they get a home, right? They're doing all the other stuff, but like even like passing out a updated vendor list once
Right.
a year, that's huge too.
Right. I love when people ask me, so would you say the name of, garage door guy is whatever it is. I love when they reach out and ask me those kind of questions because I think, well, then I'm their one, I'm their source of whatever. So I love when they ask that too.
Yeah, yeah, and it's it gives them once again confidence in using you and your services. Um, so moving forward, what do you kind of see for you guys, your team for this market? And I know you guys have implemented open houses again and put your guys' self on the map for that. But what about moving forward? What does it look like for your team, and how are you going to navigate if interest rates go up and everything else?
Yeah, just I'm just trying to provide the stats. Of course, keeping current matters. They're great with that too. So my job, what I'm doing now is like every month really drilling down to the Memphis stats too. So you've got the national stats, but then here's the Memphis stats. We're just the information. We're just the messengers. So I just want to make sure that we're providing the best message, and they realize that now may not be the time. We're going to be here next year too. So it's like just digging in, really sharing the message of what the market really is, how we can help you get into a house now, based on whatever the interest rate is, buy down, those different kind of programs, but really showing you what the market is and not getting scared about what the national news says, and just really drilling down to what the opportunity is here. And again, script practicing for us, we're doing expireds and for sale by owners again, which we hadn't done. Well, there hadn't been any,
Yeah.
for a while, and showing them our value and worth in that, and what we can provide for them and bring to the table. So those are the things we're working on this year.
How are you getting after the expired and cancels and for sale by owners?
Agent Legend is the program.
Okay.
If you've heard of that,
Yeah.
and they will
Yeah, I've used it.
import
Yeah.
from like Vulcan or Red X
Hmm.
automatically. So we just have a system. It's really kind of based in that will set up for you like text messages and phone calls and emails. And so you're just getting correspondence back and forth. But you know what? If you uncover somebody that you have a buyer that needs something, there's so many different ways that you can leverage that as well. So it's a pretty neat system that helps kind of automate a lot of it.
Yeah, we do. We mail to them because I feel like, I mean, your market's a little bit different. Talking about different market styles and how buyers are and also sellers are going to react. But we mail to them, and we have a lower a lower success rate on calling them and texting them, and a higher success rate on getting them to respond on mailers. So we've been doing that for some time. We stopped during like 2020, 21, 22, just because it was so hot. Like there
Right.
was, if it expired, it was like because the contract was written or entered
Hmm.
wrong in the MLS. That was like the only time. So, but everything else, now we've implemented that again because there's more out there to be had.
How long's that campaign for you? How many weeks?
So we've kind of changed it. There's I don't know if you've heard Tom Toole. He's a guy that's in the Tom Ferry network, but he's on the East Coast. I think I don't know where he's at, New York, something like that. But that being said, he has like an 8 week that we kind of tailored ours off that, but then we reduced it a little bit an 8 touch. So we do a 3 touch, and it's more personalized letter, and then it's 2 postcards. And then, it's another one after that, about 4 months later. And
Mm.
then, but we do 1 week, 1 week, 1 week. And we've had some success with that. And then once we get them in our, sphere of us, either them calling us, emailing us, or texting us, then we'll follow up again with 3 other touch points to get the listing. If they don't, if they call, get some information, and then we still don't hear back from just a little bit, then we'll have 3 more touch points as well. And then we're actually setting something up for sale by owners as well, is more of like a information guide of, how to sell your place, because I just looked it up the other day. There's 50 of them in my market within the last like 4 months, and 4 of them sold. All the other ones were pulled off the market. So,
Wow.
which is pretty standard. I mean, as you know, 9 out of 10 are going to sell with an agent. So
Hmm.
we're just trying to go after that on more of a knowledge agent basis, and get those people into a fold too.
Yeah, that's good.
So, so when you bring on a new agent, for you training them, how does that look like? Because, us training ours, we kind of have a program and a system, but bringing on a new agent to train them up to your standard, how does that look?
So we have 2 weeks pretty in depth in the market. So, I mean, in the office. So I really changed. I used to be a little bit more spread out, more like at 65 days. Now I'm like, I got to get them up and running in a couple weeks as far as making phone calls, different things, really trying to drum up so they're going back in our opportunity ponds. And so one guy I hired like 2 weeks ago, he actually has 2 appointments tomorrow with some
Oh,
people
nice.
he's uncovered. I know, I'm so excited for him. So I'm trying to do that faster. So it's really, in the office a lot with training for 2 weeks, and then they can be home and do different things. But we have a big Google sheet. It's about a 90-day, thing that you do. And I'm partnering with them with one of my older agents on the team too, to be their mentor for like the first 3 transactions as well. Meaning, any contract they write, they need to review it before they send it in, those kinds of things. But
Okay.
it's a Google sheet where they're just clicking different things for the different videos that we've made, to help train them for different systems and tools too.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen with success and agents on your team, like the more condensed down the first 2 weeks, or has that been the biggest success, because it sounds like that's what you've been doing for a while, or is it something where it's more like success wise spread out too, so condensed, and then you have some more training throughout the process of them being on the team?
So condensed, honestly, it's like I really had it more spread out for the past 2 years, and then like 6 months, I'm like, I got to change this. It needs to be, it's just too harder to sell right now, and I need to. I guess they had more time as well with it being a little bit slower. So really condensed it to those 2 weeks to really let them script practice honestly, with all the people in Opportunity Pond. So what if they mess up with them before they start getting new leads that, just kind of come up, because, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So anyways, just kind of let them work on it that way. So really just kind of densed it for the first 2 weeks heavily, and then, spreading it out. But we have a career path, they can't jump right out and do listings. So it's like they have to have 32 buyers before they move to the listing side of it. So yes, they can go and, be with the other listing partners that we have, but they just need to get the buyers under their belt first and then move on. They can do their sphere is next as far as listings. So 32 buyers, then they can work on their sphere and then start taking listings after that point.
Yeah. I mean, that's good. I just wrote it down, but 32 buyers before they get a listing, that's huge because it really gets them the reps in, just looking at the RPAs and being able to go through the process
Right,
on one side. And then
right,
when they get the RPAs on the listing side to review, then they can review them all with a fine-tooth comb and not just be shooting from the hip.
right. And I let them do their sphere first. Let them, I mean, you know what I mean? Let them do their sphere first just because you already have some connection with them as opposed to somebody that's called in. So it's like, it's 32 buyers. Then you can list your spheres. We have about 15 of your sphere, and we'll let you do some of the other listings, after you finished all the training. But you already have sway with your sphere. Then you can move to get the listings that just come in from different sources.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, that's good. Like Sphere, because they know they like you and they trust you typically. Depending on the transaction and stuff like that, sometimes their trust, it's a big trust barrier right there. But being able to at least have that conversation with someone that is crucial for that compatibility to move forward to transact with that person. So yeah, Sphere is good. And then for buyers, like how often do you guys go over new changes in RPA or residential purchase agreement? I'm not sure what you guys call it. Do you guys call it the RPA too?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Okay, sorry. And then, like, how often do you guys update that and do training on new disclosures and everything else?
Yeah, so ours come out for the state once a year. So it
Okay.
comes at the beginning of the year, which kind of makes it easier. But like you said, when you get new agents that are onboarding, I'm starting to do a better job of like recording that information too, so it can be there for them to go back and review it too.
Yeah.
So, but I have them write lots of contracts while they're, onboarding as well. Just because I mean, you do one, you're like, that's great, but then you get under pressure to actually do one, maybe 2 months later, and you're like, oh my goodness, I'm not sure how to do it. So we just want the repetition and that too, so they'll have it. But this year, I'm really focused on doing more videos and housing those away and Google Drive where they can go back to it and review it on their own as well, and not
Yeah.
take so much manpower in the office. Not meaning like that, but just it's just a better process, and you can access it whenever you need it.
Yeah, for sure. Being able to access it to have that, at someone's fingertips helps out because that ultimately, they could be doing it late at night when they put the kids to bed,
Right.
and they have some time, downtime. They could review it or early in the morning when everybody's still asleep. So that gives them the ability to do it whenever they can, because everybody's schedule is different. Obviously, when you're doing training in office, that's training in office, but more reps on just training alone gets you the more confidence to go out there and help buyers and sellers.
Right. Right.
Melissa, so I have like three more questions kind
Okay.
of at the tail end to ask you. So one is, you've built a system, a great system for agents, and what is one thing that you guys are doing today to be able to help you guys online or like an app? So like Slack or something like that to help you guys more efficient.
Yeah, Slack I've really pivoted to that, to be honest with you. It's like I just want all the communication to be in Slack because you have so many different channels. Like on Mondays, I'm like, here's all the open houses, and then my virtual assistant can pick all that up to do our social media post for that. So Slack, we've had it, but I've just really dialed into it this year, just to be huge. So I think it's really good. And then the fun one is like the Big app. So if I'm making a bomb video,
Yeah.
if you've seen Big, you can, do that. So I think that's neat too, or personalized because you have their name on it or thank you or whatever it may be as you're holding up to make that video too. I love that app, which is just simple and free. I love the free.
Yeah, yeah, I love free too. Okay, and what about a book that you've read over the course of your real estate career or something in the past few years that's really helped you?
um, we're reading Ed Milet. I love him right
Oh yeah,
now.
he's
It's the
good.
power of one more, that
Yeah,
he's doing. So we read a book and it's basically just a chapter a week just to kind of go through it on Mondays on our huddles. We'll just go through that. So that's been really good. That I've been reading right now. But I love Profit First as I pivoted from being a single agent and honestly, probably not, but 4 or 5 years ago to really live off of Profit First because I would put all of my money that I made into one account and then go, well, I think I have this amount. But if you really pay yourself on the 10th and the 25th with a profit first model, then you know exactly how much money you can put into your business. That's been like
Mm,
a game changer because then it's not like all your money. You're paying yourself first, and we work hard. So
yeah.
it's like, this is what I know, whatever the percentage is, and he breaks it down for you. So I have a spreadsheet that I put in, and on the 10th and the 25th, I know what goes to my business, what you give away, whatever you want to spend your money, but what you pay yourself first. But that's been huge to be as you grow, with your team and your business. But Profit First is amazing.
Yeah, 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 that's huge. I like that book a lot. And so where can people find out more about you? I know you're on TikTok.
I am, yes. And then it's yourkeytomemphis.com. So that's our website. And then
Okay.
Memphis Realtor is what you can find on the different social media posts as well.
Okay, perfect.
Melissa
All right,
Memphis. Yeah.
perfect. I'll put that in the show notes. Um, well, Melissa, this has been awesome. I'm really happy that we were able to jump on. You have, a wealth of knowledge, especially over the years that you've been selling real estate. So it's great to hear your insight on how you've been able to build a really successful business.
Yeah. Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, thanks, Peter.
Bye.
Bye.